It seems like Google wants to revolutionize video gaming, but are they the company to do it? What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture show. And yes, Google is making some moves into the world of video games because they announced today Project Stream. This was formerly codenamed Yeti, and basically this is Google's service that will let you stream video games straight to your Chrome browser. So the first game that they're testing out in an upcoming beta that starts this Friday is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That game also comes out on Friday. And Google calls this Project Stream a, quote, technical test that will solve some of the biggest challenges of streaming. And they go on to say that for this test, they're going to push the limits of demanding applications for streaming by using a blockbuster video game. They've teamed up with Ubisoft to let people stream Assassin's Creed for free for the duration of this beta. So if you do get accepted into the Project Stream beta, you do get a copy of Assassin's Creed to play while you are trying out and kind of stress testing their service for them. So that's pretty cool. If you get accepted, you can play this brand new $60 game for free. As far as requirements go, of course, you have to be 17 years or older, you have to live in the US, and you have to have, the key part here, you have to have a 20 megabits per second or faster internet connection. So let's talk about the buts, because there definitely are a lot of buts and caveats to this thing. First of all, as far as the internet requirements go, 25 megabits actually isn't too bad as far as game streaming goes, but it is still ridiculously faster than large portions of this country have. Big sections of the US still don't have broadband that's fast enough to stream these games, and big sections of the country still don't even have broadband access. It's gotten better in the last 10 years, but it certainly hasn't penetrated to the point where it is ubiquitous, where you can assume everyone in the country has the access to this high-speed internet. So one of the big things, of course, is that moving to kind of a streaming platform for games will leave those people behind. They won't be able to keep up with the new game releases. Those people will simply not be able to use this service full stop until something happens that improves their internet situation. And of course, game streaming has kind of been the next big thing in gaming for a long time without ever actually fully blowing up. I think it's taken a lot longer to really fully materialize and get people behind it. It's taken a lot longer than a lot of people have expected. It's slowly gaining ground, though. OnLive was the first company to really try game streaming out in a very big way. And really, for the entire lifespan of OnLive, it was plagued by lag and really high requirements as far as internet speeds go. And it kind of limped along as a service until eventually it shut down in 2015 when it was bought by Sony. And then Sony, of course, has their own game streaming service called PlayStation Now. It lets you stream PS2, PS3, and PS4 games to a PC or to a PS4. And they've since come back and added downloading to those games, which maybe is a kind of backpedaling against streaming for people who don't want to use up all that data or maybe don't want to have that lag. So they do have a streaming service, but it's not, at the forefront of their business. And Microsoft is in the works on a streaming service right now as well that isn't currently released. So there are some iterations of this out there, but nothing that is really taking the world by storm. And Google's getting out and trying to join in this business as well. Now, I'm very skeptical about game streaming in general. After seeing OnLive and seeing all of the issues there, and trying a few random other game streaming and computer streaming services on my own, and having really, really terrible luck with those, I really kind of doubt the long-term success of game streaming and streaming entire games to your computer, to your TV. But I'm very excited about the possibilities if someone can figure out how to do it right and how to fix some of the issues that are always going to be inherent in game streaming. Obviously, the benefits are very huge. If you have a decent internet connection, you don't have to have super crazy beefy hardware to run really awesome looking games. Right now, the barrier to entry for PC gaming, at least on the high end, is pretty high. You have to buy a $400+ graphics card, not to mention all the rest of the computer components, assemble this machine or buy it pre-assembled. You're looking at probably $1,000+ to run games on the computer at a very high end, something that'll last for several years. That's not a lot that is a lot of money that a lot of people just simply cannot drop or don't want to. They'd rather stick to a console and sacrifice the graphics a little bit just to save a little bit of money and have a little bit less headache. But if we can do away with those requirements and give you an incredibly, ridiculously detailed looking game that you can stream on anything, on your desktop computer, on your laptop, on your netbook, on your tablet, there's really no reason not to do that as long as you have the internet available to you. But again, the internet will always be the limiting factor. As we mentioned, there's lots of people in the country who don't have the internet service required to make that work. And also, we now live in a country where data caps are a very real thing and continue to be a very real thing, and it's growing kind of as the years go by. More and more companies are imposing data caps on their customers. And we also live in a world where now net neutrality no longer exists, so at any point, if your particular website or game streaming service is using too much data, you could get throttled. They could suddenly stop your service from running quite as fast without technically shutting you down or imposing a data cap. So the internet companies, the ISPs out there, could really pose a very serious threat to game streaming. And also, kind of at the very core, you're going to suffer from lag, right? You're always going to have that lag that's inherent in pressing a button on a controller or a keyboard, and that input having to be sent to a remote server to control a game. Companies like Google, I think, can get very, very good at this and can reduce that lag as much as possible, but it will always inherently be there, and some games will simply always be worse when you're streaming them versus when you're running them locally. Games like fighting games where you have to put in inputs into the game, sometimes at a frame accurate level, sometimes those simply won't be able to be translated over into an online streaming setup when you're always going to have at least a few milliseconds of lag built in. However, I do hope that is something that can be solved at least to some extent, or at least minimized. I'm also a little worried about the fact that Google is the company that seems like they're really going to get out here and champion this. Google is a company that does a lot of things that people use every day and rely on every day. A big chunk of the internet exists because of Google. But they're also a company that is kind of inherent for starting projects, never really updating them, not focusing on them enough, and then eventually killing them, or simply mismanaging and ignoring them. Google is a company that has a lot of irons in the fire. Gaming might not necessarily be at the forefront of their business, and it might simply get ignored and left by the wayside. So I don't want to see a lot of gamers buy into a Google streaming service just to have Google eventually forget about the service and shut it down in a year or two. That's not going to be good for anyone involved. So I would love to see an actual game company really get behind game streaming in a big way, but Google seems to be the one that's going to be doing it. So lots of worries here between the lag, between the company actually doing this test, but I still would count myself as cautiously optimistic about Project Stream and about being able to stream games to kind of any hardware, not just really beefy hardware. So hopefully the majority of games can work and work well. We saw some test footage of Assassin's Creed along with this announcement, and it does really look good. It looks very smooth. So hopefully that is a real world scenario that's also the case. And hopefully Google can roll this out and make this a successful part of their business that they really focus on, and that actually becomes the forefront of kind of their service offerings. Because I think a lot of people will definitely take advantage of this. Lowering the barrier of entry to high-end PC gaming is always going to be a good thing. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thanks very much for joining me to talk about Project Stream. If you want to support Pretty Dece, you can do so. Visit prettydeceshow.com/listener support to find out all the details. You can listen to the show from your favorite podcast delivery platform. We are on Spotify, we are on iTunes, we're on Google, every place that you can imagine. Just search for Pretty Dece and download there. Or watch the video version. You might be watching that right now. Search for Pretty Dece on YouTube or visit prettydeceshow.com/video. And finally, follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram @PrettyDeceShow.